Today, while in the real world there is plenty of complaining about how the inflation keeps going up, how I can't even afford to buy groceries anymore, how the rent has gone up 7,000 million% in the past couple of decades, well, Blizzard, despite making a fantasy game, decided to stay a bit more grounded in reality for this expansion and decide to port all of this misery in World of Warcraft as well. Because while we have been quite positive and praising the expansion, there is one major issue right now: everything costs too fucking much. That's the problem we have right now. Whether or not you're talking about sockets, gems, enchants, potions, flasks, it doesn't actually matter. No matter what you're thinking about, it's going to be overpriced. Now, the culprit of this disaster in this expansion has been the change that Blizzard gave the profession system, because, you know, for the most part, all of this is the same we have had from Dragonflight, right? We still have the same things, the same 1, 2, 3 ranks, the same things like skill level, and then having to go from rank 1 to rank 2 to rank 3, the finishing reagents, etc, etc. But Blizzard got rid of inspiration. Inspiration, for the ones that didn't care about crafting in Dragonflight, was what gave you the chance to craft what you wanted to craft with extra skill. So practically this was just a chance. It wasn't a guarantee that had a timer to refill. It was something like, 50%. So every time you would craft, you had a 50% chance to bring it at rank 2. If you failed for most of the professions, you could recraft it, again with a 50% chance, and the recraft costed much less than the actual craft. It practically took off all of the more pricey reagents, so it was only a fraction of the cost, and you would keep recrafting it until you procced your inspiration to get your max rank. This is gone now. This is gone, which means that now crafters have a very limited amount of max ranks they can do thanks to concentration. Now, this has created a problem where the value of max ranks materials, for example, is now much higher because the crafters have limited amounts of crafts they can have. Previously this wouldn't have been a problem. Previously the crafter would just keep telling you to resend the craft for recrafting until it procced inspiration, and that's it. That's cool. Now it's no longer like that. Now they have like, hey, if I have to spend like 130 concentration, I can craft like 7 of these in the next 3 days, and then that's it. As a crafter, I'm done for the next 3 days if I want to craft one of these enchants, for example. This has created gigantically high and inflated prices. Since we're talking about enchants, for example, enchanting has been one of the biggest culprits, right? Nowadays you have to fork out 10 to 15 to 20,000 gold just to get yourself one of the rank 3 crafts. And that's because you are limited in the amount of crafts you can do. Even this character, which isn't even speccing into enchanting, it's actually just crafting random garbage, even this character could take something like Crystalline Radiance, which at the moment sells for the cheap 15,000 gold. And if you look at the simulation mode, if I were to just put all rank 2 materials on this simulated craft, if I gave myself rank 2 materials and then 10 of the Gleaming Shards at rank 3, I would be able to bring it to a rank 3 craft. Obviously, it would cost me the cheap amount of 422 concentration, because I have a lot of missing skill points for crafting actual enchants, but I would be able to a couple of times, and I would be able to make a good amount of profit off of one of these crafts, but only basically twice every like 3 days, because that's how far I would be gated by concentration. Obviously, good crafters would have actually gone into here, actually specced into whatever they wanted to focus on, whichever type of enchant they wanted to focus on, and would be able to craft it more often than a couple of times every 3 days, maybe 4 or 5 times, but still, it is a limited amount. You find yourself in a situation, for example, where if you wanted to craft or to get yourself a good ring, finally you find your best in slot, ring from Mythic Plus, well, you have to buy yourself, a couple of settings first, right? Which is about 22,000 gold to get yourself 2 sockets. Then you have to actually buy the gems to put in the sockets. So a couple of these gems, it's another 5 plus 5,000 gold, so now you're at 32,000 gold. And then if you want to get yourself the actually good enchant to put on your ring, the cursed enchants at rank 3, it's another 15,000 gold. So you'd have to spend some cheap 47,000 gold to get the max enchantments to put on your ring. Except you have 2 rings, so it would cost you close to 100,000 gold just for your rings. And then you have the chest enchant, you also have the double gems plus double sockets on your necklace, which is another 50,000 gold. You also have the cheap weapon enchant, right? Weapon enchant, in this case it's an authority of fiery resolve, which is a cheap 23,000 gold right now. So basically, to get yourself your character fully decked out, you would have to spend no less than 200,000 gold. However, your character is not truly fully decked out until it has food, flasks and potions, so the price there goes up even higher. And we're not actually here to be economists and to offer a solution, we're just here to complain today. You know, this was not happening in Dragonflight because of the way inspiration worked. You remember, the biggest scandal of Dragonflight at the release was the glowing Titan Orb, which was what was needed practically by all of the enchants, for example, right? And at the expansion release, it had this scandalous price in the first weeks of the expansion, when the expansion came out, when the expansion was very early out, about a month in, like we are now. For example, the scandalous price of 8.5 thousand gold, for example, that was the biggest thing, the one that could more closely be similar to what we have today, right? Because back then, you know, the big enchants like Sophic Devotion required 3 of these, right? So early on, it had a similar price to what we have now, but the price went down quite quickly, and ever since then it stayed reasonably cheap. If we move back to, instead of Dragonflight, to the War Within, this is not the same case. Another one, which is quite a big culprit of this problem, is the Nullstone, right? The Nullstone is again not moving in price. It's been, you know, this is like over 2 weeks and the price is not moving when it comes to the Nullstone. You can then move to much more generic things like, you know, herbalism, you know, the herbs in herbalism. Things are not changing. You know, Arthur Spear, 55 gold right now, it's been the same for a while. It had the spike around here, which is expected because this was the release of the Mythic Raid plus Mythic Plus. So obviously, you know, flasks, potions require herbs. The season actually releases, people try to spike the prices, right? But then it normalized again to not really being lower than what it was before. And the same goes for pretty much any other herb. You know, they just don't go down in price. Even if the quantity here, you know, is, you know, close to 200,000, which is almost 4 times as much as it was here, the price is the same. Things are not really getting cheaper as we have gone through now more than 1 month into the expansion. If you move over from herbalism to mining, there isn't really that much to be happy about. You know, Bismuth, rank 2, again, not really doing much. Again, the quantity is breaching 300,000 compared to here, where it was at mid to low 100,000, and the price is the same. It's not changing. So we are here today just to complain about simply how much you had to spend in gold at the beginning of this expansion. And there is a slight worry because right now it's not that it looks like the prices are lowering for most of the pricey things, like for example the enchants, like for example the sockets, the gems and the sockets and the enchants, which are going to be the ones that you might have to spend the most on, right? Because of course, if you were to somehow get yourself a better ring than what you have now, then you have to re-gem it, you have to re-socket it, you have to re-enchant it, and it's more gold you have to spend. Now for something it might be a one-time thing, so you're not even that annoyed it costed you that much, because at the end of the day you still got yourself a 636 crafted weapon with the best enchant you can get, so fine. We are done with it. It costed almost 100,000 gold, but at least you have it. It's gonna last you for a few months. But other things, like repeatable things like enchants and gems and sockets and even flasks and potions, those are not permanent. Those are things you have to repeat buying more and more over and over, right? You can now switch over to the consumables, over to the flasks and phials, and you have a similar problem when it comes to this type of thing. Currently, if you wanted to buy yourself a single flask, like the more popular one, the Flask of Alchemical Chaos, you have to fork out 4,000 gold, 1 hour. 1 hour of power for the cheap price of 4,000 gold. It did go down a bit, yeah, from 5,000 to 4,000, so we have some slight reduction in price, but it's still nowhere near compared to the availability of the actual amount of flasks, because going from 5k when you have 700 of them in the auction house to 4k when you have 2,800 of them in the auction house is not really scaling evenly. The availability of the flask increased by 400% and the price decreased by 20%. That's not quite the same. And again, it's kind of hard to sort of fault flask crafters, I guess, alchemists, because when you want to craft this, you have to spend yourself money for very often many of these will be rank 3, because you need to be able to have enough skill to get yourself to be able to craft at least a rank 2, so that you can then use your concentration to guarantee a rank 3. But then, because you are just barely squeaking in rank 2, for example, the concentration cost will be huge, which will only mean you can craft it like 2 or 3 of these every few days. So you have to try to stock up on as much multicraft as you can, try to stock up on as much multicraft as you can, and try to proc as many multicrafts as you can, because even for the crafters that will be pricey. We have just been mentioning how it costs, 4,000 gold to just buy one of these. Okay, it costs 4,000 gold to buy one of these, but if you go over to the reagents and to the herbs, they would barely struggle by to even make a profit themselves. They will still have to base their earnings, many of them, either gated every few days because of concentration or because of multi-crafting. Potions is not that they are much different. You do have definitely the most popular of the potions, which is the tempered potion. Now rank 3 is 750 gold. So imagine you are in a raid, imagine you pull the boss 30 times. In this raid you're using the potion 30 times, that's 21,000 gold. If you were using the rank 3 potion, right? 21,000 gold. To make the tempered potion, again you would be gated by the concentration, because even if we open up the sim mode and we make everything at rank 2, right? Everything at rank 2 already guarantees me rank 3, right? It's guaranteed if I buy everything at rank 2, even if I were perhaps to skim a bit. I'm missing 10 skills, right? If I were to skim on the vials, but I don't even have the plus 10 skill from the alchemy tool, because I went cooking with my tools. So if I had 10 more skill from this, I would be able to guarantee myself the rank 3 tempered potion. But that would cost me some 280 plus concentration, which means I can only make about 3 of these crafts every few days. Obviously, the more skill you have, the more points you have put, although you can't really put that many points when it comes to alchemy. If you fill out potent potions, the next thing you can do, best thing you can do, is to go into alchemical mastery and spec into the herbs that are needed for, in this case, this potion. So Arthur Spear, Microbloom and Lure Drop, but eventually you will be able to get quite a bit. That will be a total of 4, 8, 12, 120 skill points plus the extra bonuses, the extra 8 I think bonuses from this, so it's like well over 140 skill points if you were to fully max out the crafting of tempered potion, from maxing out Arthur Spears and Microblooms and Lure Drops. Even then, even with that extra 120, you will still be missing an extra 140 plus skill, which will still have to come out off of your concentration, which is gated every few days. So even from a crafter's perspective, this would cost you a lot of gold, or time, which can be comparable to gold. And that's pretty much the complaining we wanted to do for today. Just to complain about the state of how much things are costing right now, and for Blizzard to actually do something. Things have to be smoothened out a bit, but perhaps reducing the amount of concentration you would have to spend to transform concentration into skill. Maybe double it, so you would spend less concentration, allowing you for more crafts, so the prices can start going down. However, until any of these changes are fixed, it's difficult to see any improvements in the future. And that's why we're making the video today, just to complain about the current situation of the prices in this expansion. In this otherwise quite good and positive expansion, we have to also point out the annoyances. And for today, we are pointing out the cost of pretty much everything. So For today, with this out of the way, it is now time to leave each other. Thanks, of course, as usual, for watching the video, as well as for supporting completely for free by liking and commenting down below, as well as subscribing to the channel itself. Now, with these things out of the way, thank you guys again for watching. See you guys tomorrow, and in the meantime, it's been a while. It's been a while since I made a video deep at night. I had gotten used to afternoon videos, but now back in the dark.